Welcome to your reading. Thank you so much for your patience. It's been a hectic time for me. I'm just trying to figure out how to manage everything that's going on. I'm hiring an assistant, or I'm in the process of hiring an assistant, which is hopefully going to take some of the load off of me a little bit. But yeah, it's been insane. So I'm getting these done as fast as I can without jeopardizing the quality of the readings. So I finally got a night where there's no live readings. So here I am. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump right in. MC, Miss MC, MC, MC. I'm not saying your name because I'm anonymous like that. Okay, so where are we at? Where are we at? Okay. So let me just triple check. Okay, so we got MC. All right, let's share the screen. So just so you know, I go back and forth between showing my face and showing the screen. I sometimes do like I was gonna say weird and demonize myself. No, I sometimes like to just like walk around my apartment and hold crystals and sit with my eyes closed and meditate, and that doesn't always look so good on camera. It looks a little bit weird as I grab my magical crystals right now. Let me get these ones. This one. Wow, I'm really grabbing a lot of them. And a pendulum. Why? I've never used my pendulum for a reading. Why not just take it? So we got all of these tools. Just so you know, I'm not like a massive crystal person. I have probably like maybe like 10 like big ones. So anyways, one second. Okay, close this out. I'm just saying goodnight to my girlfriend who's not here. Okay, so we are good. Just checking something really quick. Okay, very good, very good. Okay. Okay, looks good. All right, yeah, that looks good. So, basically, as you see here, you have a lot of first house Cancer energy. You have a stellium in Cancer in the first house. Ascendant, Mercury, um, Sun, Mars, all in Cancer, and Black Moon Lilith, which isn't a planet, but it's still important. It's all in the first house. Venus is close by in the 12th with Chiron on it. Venus, Chiron, Ascendant, Mercury, Sun, Black Moon Lilith, Mars. Then we skip a little bit. We got South Node with the Moon in Libra. We got the 5th house Pluto and Vertex, and then we have these two in the 6th house, Uranus, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune 7th, and Ascendant is Capricorn. Midheaven in Pisces, Jupiter 11th in Aries. Okay, and then North Node also in Aries in the 10th. Okay, gotcha. So, interesting. So first of all, when you have this many planets in the first house, I don't care what sign it's in, there's going to be sort of like an Aries energy to your chart. Now, I don't know what your level of astrology is, but the North Node, and you can see my cursor, like this point right here, that is basically like it's not a planet, but just think of it like your destiny point, right? It's kind of like you know, I'm an evolutionary astrologer, so I deal with karma and past lives. It's kind of like your like where you're really trying to get to in like a karmic level. And there's implications that in past lives, you know, you've kind of like you haven't really gone towards this energy enough. And it's I always give the metaphor of like the South Node, which is, you know, you can see that they're opposite, 0-6 Libra, 0-6 Aries. Basically like the North Node is the mountain that you've never climbed karmically in past lives, and it's like kind of like the growth edge, like where you're really trying to get. So right off the bat, I see the connection between, because the first house is a house that's ruled by Aries, or that's not ruled by, connected to Aries, and your North Node is in Aries. So that's right off the bat, even though you're Cancer, um, there's this big push for you in this lifetime to be more Aries. So what does it mean to be more Aries? Well, it's in the 10th house, which is the house of like career, of dharma, of outer life, of really like kind of taking like really pioneering in whatever whatever field, career, and it's not just career, it's just like dharma, like what you do for the world, basically, right? So it's that's very important. So really, like, what's asking you is like, how can you learn to be more assertive in this lifetime, less people pleasing? And by the way, when I do readings, like, I have no idea what you look like. I literally, like, I do this on purpose. I have a list with names. I delete, I never look at the photos until maybe after, usually like I become friends with my clients. I think I don't have it in front of me if you got a follow up or not, but I assume that you got a follow up, which, the majority of people are combining the follow-up with the current astrology reading. So basically, like, this is like the book of your life. You get done once. I mean, you can get done by different astrologers, which is I highly advise to hear different people's takes on your chart. But yeah, the current astrology is kind of how it's way different. It's kind of like how the current astrological forces are affecting you. So if you're interested, that's what everyone's been doing lately. Who purchases, or the reading plus follow up, is that they add the current astrology to it, and I just basically blank out an entire night on my schedule, where you're the only live person I see, and we just start with the follow up, which is like around an hour, and then we go into the current astrology, which is like the perfect segue because your birth chart is fresh in my mind at that point, and it's all live. I record it, but I don't post it on YouTube. I post it, but I post it as a private video, like we're unlisted. You're the only one who's able to see it, and or you slash whoever you decide to share the link with. But like no one actually sees the video. And if people are really not wanting on YouTube, I'm also willing to email it, whatever. It's the whole point is like it's recorded and you're able to watch it throughout, the coming year. And I advise my clients to come to me each year to get a new current astrology report, because things are always changing, and you could have an energy that I talk about in this birth chart that, like, for example, I don't see anything off the bat, but let's just pretend for the sake of arguing that your sun, instead of being right now, you have Pluto, because transiting Pluto is at literally like directly opposing your Mars. Like Pluto's like right here, or right here, like transiting, like moving. It's moving very slowly, so it's opposing your Mars. So that's going to be like a fucking intense as fuck volcanic energy, and that's just one thing. I have a million different predictive techniques I use. That reading usually lasts around like 2.5 to 3 hours when you combine it with a follow-up, and I give a big reduction in terms of price. So like bang for your buck, it's unreal, like what you get when you combine those two. And I think it's the best thing for people to do if they're trying to get the full, not just like, because the birth chart, this is great, this is like ultimately everything. This is the hand you were dealt, the karmic hand you were dealt, but understanding like how the current energetic forces are playing out. And I also two master's degrees in psychology. I combine that into this reading, into those sessions too. It's just a great thing. So you can let me know if you want to like add that to the follow-up, and we can make it happen. So back to what I was saying. So in this lifetime, yeah, you're really trying, because there's been past life, and this is linked to your moon sign, right? Your moon is like the feminine nature within you. It's like your instincts, your instinctual self, your unconscious self, it's what makes you feel secure, what makes you feel happy, what makes you feel accomplished. It's really like what runs the show. But it's a moon, so it's very unconscious. It's not so accessible for everyone. Like you'll resonate with what I say, but like unlike the sun, everyone talks about the sun sign. Well, the moon, it gives way more implications. So we'll talk about like how Cancer Sun mixes with Moon in Libra. But first, I want to start off by saying that with the fact that your South Node, which rules like your past like tendency, is connected to your Moon, it means that this is like something that you've played out in different past lives, and that you're trying to kind of like overcome in this life. And what that would represent would be like an over reliance on relationships, potential like codependency, and I don't mean that like in like such a negative way. I just mean like it's like whatever you've done, it's kind of pushed away your ability to truly self-actualize and get to know yourself better. So that's why you have all these planets in the first house, your North Node in Aries. It's because there's this big karmic push for you to be more independent, for you to be more pioneering, for you to be more entrepreneurial, because that's in the 10th house. And for you to kind of like not allow yourself to get stuck in relationships that hold you back, right? Because with even the let's see what I saw, Venus was square opposite Uranus also. Or wait, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, Venus in Gemini in 12th house opposite Uranus. There's definitely this interesting tendency when it comes to love, and we'll talk about that in the follow-up. But basically, like, yeah, so you're really trying to like, another thing about Libra, like South Node, is that there can be like a tendency to put other people above yourself, and you can imagine like someone who does that, how it just pushes them, like they're very, very, a master at compromising, a master of diplomacy, a master of like you have these natural talents of design. There's lots of good things with the South Node. It's not a bad thing. But for the purpose of me explaining this, it's about moving more towards that more independent, assertive, like I'm doing this for me type energy, right? So you're gonna, and now kind of moving more towards like the Libra Moon part. Your Libra Moon, there's going to be definitely a tendency to kind of be more. You can see that's the Moon, obviously. More like a very, very relationship oriented, very all about fairness, all about balance. There's an emotional need for you within your relationships, within your life in general, to have a level of beauty, a level of serenity, a level of harmoniousness, a level of equality and balance, right? So that's great and all. The thing is that in this lifetime, it's like there's this big push to being like, okay, like I know I had this, and a lot of people with Libra moons are like, not all the time, but I think it's square your sun, and let's see, yeah, so no real super bad aspects to the moon. I mean, I guess moon square sun is difficult, but it's not like no like moon square Uranus or square Pluto or Saturn or anything. So basically, like, yeah, there can be sometimes a tendency to be like very, very relationship oriented. Now with all your first house planets, that could kind of be taken away a little bit, but it is in Cancer, which is a very like a sign that's all, as all about emotional closeness, and really, really like very romantic, very it's in touch, it's very like emotional, right? So that's kind of in psychology what we call a split, where there's like these two kind of contradicting parts of someone's personality, or someone's of identity, or whatever you want to call it. And it's like how do we have these two parts coexist. So more about Libra Moon. So okay, so this is what's interesting, right? So you are a Cancer, so I'm sure you like, and once again, I have no idea about your level of astrology. You might be a fucking advanced and know all this shit already, or like know what I'm about to say about like the Libra Moon and Cancer and how it works. But if you don't, whatever. So with Cancer, right? So you might read the horoscopes and be like, that kind of resonates, but kind of not, right? Because yes, Cancers are very family oriented. They're very, very emotional. There's usually like a connection to their past and their childhood. But when you have your moon, and a lot of times you've heard the whole thing about like Cancer being like the crybaby of the zodiac, blah, 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 blah. When they get hurt, they have a lot of trouble like trusting again, this, that, and the third. Now, with the moon in an air sign, right? Because Libra is an air sign along with Aquarius and Gemini. Air moons typically are not so in touch with their emotions, in the sense that they like I always give the example, like, let's say that there's the person, let's say that you have, let's say, like, instead of a Libra moon, you had like a Cancer moon. You're double Cancer, right? Or I guess it would be like a quadruple Cancer, or even quintuple. I can't say that word. 5x Cancer, quintuple. So basically, like if you had your moon in Cancer, you'd be the kind of person that would just be so emotional, and like to the point to where it's like you know, like that like let's say like emotional, like something emotional stimulating happens. Cancer can't, oh fuck, I just dropped something. Cancer moon people tend to just like they it's a very good moon sign, because they tend to they'll like cry about it right away, right? They'll cry about it right away. They'll let that energy out. And that's why Cancer moons are able to meet their emotional needs very well. That's why, you know, the moon is exalted in Cancer, because, you know, the emotions are all energy. So energy likes to kind of flow in that kind of watery type of way, if you understand the metaphor, what I'm saying metaphorically. And you're Cancer, so you have your retrograde Mercury too, just like my brother. Interesting, he's a Cancer also. So basically, like, what can happen is that you know, you can be someone who, like with the air moon, who like in the example, like going back to that example, like you don't have a Cancer moon, you have a Libra moon. So with the Libra moon, something might happen that's like, you know, the emotional stimuli, and you might not actually feel like the emotional impact. It might like be like 6 months later where you're like, oh shit, like I'm sad about that stuff, you know. So there can be like a level, like when you have like your moon and air sign, of kind of being a little bit removed from your emotions, if you want to call it that, because it's air. Think about it. And there can also definitely be a tendency to kind of what's the word, like be overly logical when it comes to your emotions, which, you know, it can have its advantages, but it can also be problematic when, you know, you're there's like a certain level of distance between you and your emotions. So that's that. Now with Cancer, right? In the first house, like, well, before I get into that, let's talk about Cancer. The fact that your sun and your moon are square, right? So a square in astrology means that it's like a tense aspect. It's 90 degrees separating them. The tense aspects are the 90-degree square and the 180-degree opposition. So when you have sun square moon, which I do too, by the way, so I think I'm very, very, you know, I can definitely speak to this. So there's implications in lots of different ways. First of all, with the parents, usually when there's sun square moon, it means that the parents, there was some kind of like I was explaining like this, like if you had to like write down, you know, you're like, I wrote a book, by the way, I don't know if you know, it's called Pisces Live 9 Lives. It's available on Amazon if you're ever interested in learning more about, it's actually not a book about me, it's a book about like like just all the things I find most interesting. I have like 2 chapters about myself, but this isn't about promoting my book. This is about you, Miss MC. But basically, like I have a whole part where I talk about like this exact thing, this square, right? Like if you want to take it like that, like this difference, right, between my mother and my father, how how they contribute to my worldview. And they are completely different people. Like you couldn't find 2 people that are more different. I mean, it's very, very hard. That, you know, there's little areas of moral, you know, like they're both very good people, but, you know, like in terms of like who they are, what they represent, what they taught me is very, very different, right? And what they represent. So for you, it would be something kind of similar, right? Because with the sun in Cancer, it's all about family. It's all about, you know, like kind of, it's more of a homebody energy. It's you know, you know about Cancer. Now when it squares Libra, and Cancer is also a water sign. So water signs are very in touch with their intuition, with their imagination. They're super, super empathetic. They can feel energy of other people. They're the kinds of people that are just there for you. You know, they're the people that friends come to. So you have that because Libra is also like that, you know. But with that said, what can be problematic is the thing with boundaries, right? Which I'm going to get into a little bit later. Because Libra moons, they tend to lack boundaries, and they tend to, and when I say tend, it's not always, right? Libra is also the opposite sign of Aries. So, you know, there's, I'm going downstairs really quickly, but you can still hear me because I have these awesome Bluetooth. I just have to put these things in the fridge or they're gonna go bad. But basically, with like with this square, there can definitely be an energy where you feel like, yeah, like I said, like two parts of you, and it's like one like kind of going back and forth. Like I always give the metaphor of like if you were, and I'm very metaphorical with the way I talk, so just like the Cancer, I think you know it'll make sense to you because we both have water Mercury's, which is like our communication. Pisces Mercury, Pisces Sun, your Cancer Mercury, Cancer Sun. So there shouldn't be like that big of a at oddsness, if that's a fucking word, in terms of our communication and you understanding me and whatnot. But basically, like what can happen is that coming back upstairs, there can be this real back and forth where like there's part of you that, because Libra is a very social sign, right? Libra, it wants to have lots of friends. It's very artistic also. Both of them are very artistic. So you're probably someone who, whether you're an artist or not an artist, you're probably someone who's very in touch with like, you know, the artistic world and beauty and all that stuff. Now the real issue with the square here though is it basically that one part of you is a lot more social than the other part, essentially, like very like a very minimalist like explanation. So there'll be one part that like, you know, wants to kind of go out, network, socialize, you know, because Libra moons, they have an emotional need to have, you know, lots of friends and to kind of, you know, like experience life in a more, because air is masculine, water is feminine, right? So with the Libra part, it'd be more linked to that, you know, having you know, like, you know, being social. Like I imagine like COVID was probably like a difficult time for anyone with an air moon, because you know they want to go out, but like the fact that you have Cancer, that part of you is probably very like, okay, I got this, I'm a Cancer, you know, Cancer rules the home, there's no issue. So basically, yeah, like getting past squares is all about like compromise, right, within yourself, because like oppositions are more external and squares are more internal. So internal conflict. So we'll talk more about that in the follow up. But yeah, let's kind of leave it at that. I'll circle back to kind of this energy. Now, with the fact that you know the sun's in the first house and you have all these planets in the first house, it's going to make you someone who you know, even though you do lack fire in your chart, meaning that you don't have any planets in Sag, you don't have any planets in Leo, you don't have any planets in like, and I'm talking about inner planets, which is the big three: Sun, Moon, Ascendant, and then Mercury, Mars, and Venus. I mean, you do have Jupiter in, which is kind of like a middle planet in Aries, which kind of counts, but it's like it's yeah, it kind of counts, but not to the extent of the big six. So but the fact that you have all these planets in the first house of, you know, like I said, of Aries, is going to be very, very good for kind of getting past some of these potential issues. Now with a Cancer rising, you'll probably be the type of person that tends to, you know, ease your way into things. You know, like Cancer risings tend to be quite shy. And you know, also you know, your ascendant is square your moon. So this is the thing, like you have so much energy in Cancer that you know, it could be the case that the Cancer kind of dominates, even though it's a water sign and it's less dominant. The Cancer kind of dominates the Libra, right? Okay, I hurt my mouth. Okay, so Yeah, like Cancer risings, they tend to kind of like to wait for their turn, I guess you could say, to jump into situations. They're very empathetic to the needs of others. They are very. It's also important as a Cancer ascendant to really follow like the lunar cycle, because you'll be more affected having so much Cancer in your chart by the cycles of the moon. So a cool thing for you to do would be to like have like a moon journal where you kind of like use your creative abilities to sort of talk about like how you feel when the moon is, and you can literally just search current planets on Google and it'll show you what sign the moon's in. And just kind of like understand like, okay, so the moon's in this sign, I feel this way, and then just like with that, you'll be able to really, I guess you could say, have have a better understanding of like the times of the month that are more troubling or more easy for you. I imagine, let me see, that just like myself with your Pluto and Scorpio, I mean, that's always really hard for me when the moon's in Scorpio. It's a very generational planet. Everyone born between 84 and 98 has that in Pluto and Scorpio, but still, like I've experienced it like at a festival 2 weeks ago, where the first 2 days the moon was in Scorpio, and I swear to God, there was like such a demonic energy. Like it was just so like it kind of ruined the festival, honestly. Like the fact that the moon was in Scorpio, not like completely ruined, but like the last 2 days were way better. But by the last 2 days of the festival, everyone's kind of, you've been partying for fucking 4 days. I'm 32. I can't do this like at that level I used to be able to do, and I barely ever party anyways. So with that said, yeah, so it's Cancer versus Libra. So with very, very important, you have Mercury rising, right? So that means like right here you see this is your ascendant, and you have Mercury right there on the ascendant, and it's actually right next, it's right next to the moon, and it's is it a Cazimi? Let's calculate. No, it's combust. It's just combust. So a Cazimi is when your Sun and your Mercury, because they never move further than 28 degrees from one another. It's when your Sun, I actually have a Cazimi. It's when your Sun and your Mercury are so close that it's 0.17 or lower. Now, if it's like in your case, 0.33 away, it can be a little bit difficult, because it can feel like you're especially with your Mercury retrograde, which we'll get into, which is square Neptune. It can have a difficult energy like effect on the mind, because Neptune and Mercury, what happens is that there can be there can be like confusion, paranoia, and just an overall sense of like not really just like Mercury retrograde can be very, very overly analytical, and like there can be a huge tendency to ruminate, especially with a Libra moon. You could be someone who's always like weighing the pros and the cons, and then Libra moons are known for being very indecisive, because like they're like with the Mercury retrograde, you could be someone who's just like thinking, is this the right way, is this the right way, then they end up not doing anything. So in this lifetime, going back to like what I was saying before, you're really trying to move towards that energy of like really like being assertive and be like, I'm taking this decision. Maybe maybe it will backfire, maybe it won't, but I trust that with my Mercury retrograde, which also makes you way more like internally pensive. Like you're really like your thought processes are really directed inwards. So typically Mercury retrograde people are more shy, more reserved, even if it's in the first house. It's about like trusting that like you've done enough thinking, and that and having the courage to kind of move into that direction, move into that place of assertiveness. Just opening something real quick. So yeah, with Mercury, yeah, like and Neptune, there can be like this like hazy thinking, and also there can be like some real difficulty with concentration. There can be, and this whole thing of deception. Sometimes it's even like deceiving other people. So yeah, it can have a real kind of peculiar effect on the mind, on the cognitive process. Because like with Mercury, and your chart's ruled by the moon also, so that's going to give your your Libra moon some real strength and power, and yeah, really play an important role, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, with the Mercury rising, it's like, typically Mercury rising people are people who are very like communicative. They're very like out there with their communications. But the fact that it's in Cancer, which is a very shy sign, and it's retrograde, it would have a different effect, where it would likely be more like you're someone who thinks a lot, and you're born 87, so you're probably getting to the point where you're starting to really like, usually with retrogrades, it's around kind of like Saturn returnish time, like when you start really like maturing and growing, that you start to kind of like find your voice, find that throat chakra, opening that throat chakra. And yeah, it can really become like a mega strength, because the karma with Mercury retrograde is that in past lives, and I know exactly what direction this is, there's either an under usage or an over usage of the function of Mercury, which is, like I said, speaking, communicating, speaking your truth, communicating, so the Mercury retrograde person, in this lifetime, karmically, they go through this like reevaluation of their cognitive process, and they ask themselves questions like internally, like, is this the right way of thinking, of coming across, this, that, and the fourth. So, yeah. So, as I was saying, because of your South Node conjunct your Moon in Libra, it's fair to assume that it was the under speaking, right? Under assertiveness, right? Like not kind of, because like Mercury in Cancer, it's about speaking your emotions, right? It's about also like standing up for people, especially family, and like being a very emotional speaker. So I imagine you have like a very like emotionally driven like self-talk. So you're probably someone who like, it's probably very advantageous for like any kind of like spiritual growth, and emotional growth. Now, where's your Chiron? Yeah, like I thought, as usual. I was going to say in Gemini, it's in Gemini. So because of that, you probably in school, like in your early environment, it's likely that you had in your, especially with like I said, with your mother and your father having like different kind of worldviews, and maybe there's a divorce. Who knows? It's a pretty tight square. Maybe in your early childhood, whether it's with siblings, usually it's like in like the early like school environment. Your learning, your way of learning, was a lot different than the normal person, right? So because of that, you may have internalized some type of feeling of like, I'm not like my way of communicating, my way of thinking, my way of kind of like opening, like kind of speaking my truth. There's something wrong with it, and that's what happens with the Chiron in Chiron in the Gemini people, is that can be the case. Now you do have it conjunct Venus, which is very, very good for you being like a professional healer, right? We'll get into that later, and that will also have lots of love implications as well, as you'll see. So yeah, like there's definitely like maybe it's something to do with like the whole standardized educational system. You grew up in the U.S., so yeah, Torrance. My friend used to live in Torrance. Like not really like having your needs met in that way. And yeah, so that can be difficult, and it can cause someone to think, especially let's see, with some of the other like the Sun opposite Neptune, with Mercury and the Sun opposite Neptune, Venus opposite Uranus. Okay, gotcha. So, and even Moon square Mercury, Mercury squaring your Moon as well. Yeah, there can definitely be like some kind of internalized thoughts of like, the way I think isn't enough, and it kind of a lot of times with a lot of my clients, you have no idea how many clients I have who have this type of energy, right? Where it's like they almost like shut down and just think like, like they're like weirdos or something, or like there's something wrong with them, and they just get very, very shy and they don't open up. Now that goes to Cancer, being a Cancer, with your Mars there, your Sun there also. Always with Cancers, I don't care what house it's in, whatever, it's your Sun sign. In love, especially because you have Sun opposite Neptune, which typically indicates like if the Sun in your chart represents your father, the more masculine dominant parent, usually it's a father. Opposite Neptune, first of all, it's very, very creative. I just want to say that, like on a higher end, all these difficult aspects, like as you get older and you grow more, they become strengths. So it's like they're more, they're not bad. It's like tense. There's tension, but what happens when someone has like the easy way of life, right? When they just have all the money and they have no issues, they grow up like toilet paper. It's the people who have to go through trials and tribulations. Those are the ones that harden and get better and more resilient. And then when they get better and more deeper spiritually, emotionally, all that, then it's like a lot easier for them, right? So I want to make that very clear that any of these more difficult aspects are more linked to that. Yeah. So like with Sun and Neptune, there's typically an energy of like a parent, like usually it's like a father who is either like kind of absent from the life, or just like in some way not, like some level of confusion around that relationship. If some level of fogginess of like a lot of times when I speak to clients after doing the reading and they have this aspect, they're like, yeah, my dad was like either like working a lot and not around, or like my parents are divorced and I like was mostly with my mother, stuff like that. It doesn't always have to be really, really negative, because like also the Sun is in Cancer and it is conjunct, it is conjunct the ascendant. You also you have your Sun rising, which is amazing, right? It's a very strong, it's one of the most strong places in astrology to have your Sun rising, because it's like, yeah, Mercury is in the way, but in your case, the Sun is overpowering your Mercury, which can sometimes lead to like a lack of objectivity, and make someone more subjective and fail to kind of see things from other people's perspectives, if that makes sense. Which your Libra moon will help that a lot, but still, it can cause some difficulties with like the thought process, the cognitive process. Now, with both of them opposite Neptune, the Neptune Sun, it can create kind of like a vagueness of the mind, right? And on like an emotional level, there can be like an unbalanced emotional energy. And then also in your moon, it's not showing me, but your moon's also squaring it. So you have a T-square of Neptune, Sun, and Moon. So with the Moon square Neptune, it's that same theme, right? It's similar, but it's more like there's lots of self-delusion that can come, right? You have to really watch out for schemers, like kind of like energy vampire types of people. It makes someone a big time dreamer. So there can be like a tendency to like want to escape into your own, and that's a very Cancer Pisces thing too. Like this whole escapism thing, like when things get rough, to kind of like escape into your imaginary world and this, that, and the fourth. But yeah, like with the Moon square Neptune, it's difficult because, like I said, it creates an energy where you have a lot of, and especially with Sun opposite, it's very difficult for self-esteem, in the sense that it's difficult for you to see yourself clearly. Like you could be like the most beautiful, amazing person, get all the compliments, but there can be like on another level, like real difficult seeing yourself in an objective way. Like, how like you look at other people, I'm sure you have people in your life who are like that, who like they see themselves as like you see them as this like amazing person, because you have that outside perspective. But then when you talk to them, like they don't see that, like they're not able to like see these amazing aspects of themselves, right? Like in the case of the Cancer, it's like that willingness to help people, that willingness to nurture, like it's such a great energy for being a mother. I don't know if you have kids, but if you do, they're very lucky. And imagine that if you don't now, that you will, because Pluto, fifth house, that it's not necessarily like for sure kids, but like definitely like there can be very, very powerful karma with children if you have them, and you can experience vertex, like your doorway to higher awareness through children. But also it's linked to any type of creativity, right? It's linked, like basically, like people with Pluto in the fifth house, it's like they have to kind of go through like this whole process of death, rebirth, and transformation, and understanding that they're not like everyone else. And it's all about like taking a creative risk on yourself. So it's kind of similar to the North Node, and they're both like one's in the fire sign of Aries, and one of them is in the house of Leo, the fifth house. So there's real push towards fire for you in this lifetime. So another cat hair in my mouth. So risk taking is a huge theme in this chart. How can you take risks, right? How can you move past tendencies to be a little bit wishy-washy, a little bit, indecisive, a little bit willing to kind of give your power over to someone else, like let's say in the context of like a relationship or even like a family structure, like too easily? How can you do that, right? How can you move past that, right? That's a big question in this chart. But yeah, sun rising just in general. And also like before I go into that, just like with the Mercury, like, as I was saying, like just like really like the best way, and this is very, very important what I'm about to say to you. So when you have Neptune, right, like with this like impacting your sun, ascendant, Mercury, and your moon, right? It's in hard aspect to all of those. That adds like a ton of Pisces energy. So Pisces might even be like a sign, because Pisces, Neptune rules Pisces. You might really resonate, and I'm a Pisces, so that's maybe like why you're drawn to me. You might really resonate with Pisces even more than you do with Cancer, potentially, right? Because there's so much Neptune. So with Neptune, and it's important for me to kind of give you the rundown on Neptune because it's so present. There's a very high and a very low energy of Neptune, right? So the low energy of Neptune is escapism in a bad way. Drugs, alcohol, just escaping your emotions. Because it's Cancers, and like I told you already before, Libra air moons, like Libra moon, can have a tendency to kind of like not want to deal with the emotions as they come up and push them away and blah blah blah. Now with Neptune at the low level, that's kind of like, it's like, yeah, delusions, paranoia, thinking, for example, someone like comes up to you and says like, hey, how are you doing? And then you start over analyzing in your mind, like, oh, but like the way they said it, or this, that, and the third. And it's really important to have like, and we'll move to partnerships in a little bit, but it's really important to have people around you who you can talk to and really truly explain, like, look, like this is how I interpreted that. What do you think was meant by that? And through that, you start to learn, like, okay, damn, I have kind of a skewed view of reality, or of like, like, but not reality in the higher sense. Like in the higher, like spiritual sense, you're fucking golden. You're a fucking star, right? And that's the high energy of Neptune. But on like the low level, like basic communication stuff, that's where it gets tricky. So you can imagine that could have like issues with relationships, because another thing with Neptune is that, especially since it's in your seventh house, which rules relationships, it can make you kind of like very over idealistic when it comes to that area of life. And I definitely see the codependency thing potential there too. But it can make you, it can really kind of trick you and make you think like, oh, this person like means well, like I like this person, when really like, that person's not good, so like the high, going back to what I was saying before, the high energy of Neptune is channeling all this in this T square. It's like a bow and arrow. It shoots out at an Aries. No surprise, like right on your North Node, or in your Aries and in Jupiter, that area, your 10th house. So, and it's connected to your, so beautiful, to your midheaven, which is ruled by Neptune because it's Pisces midheaven. I love when charts just connect fucking perfectly. So basically, and I hope you're understanding me perfectly. And like when we do the follow-up, like make sure you take notes of all this because I literally don't remember anything I say and all these connections I make. Like I'm gonna do another chart right after. This is my first chart I've done in I think two days. So it's always fresh. That there's a high chance that by the time we actually talk, that I would have done like, I don't know, 10 to 20 charts. So it's hard for me to remember like when I make these like big connections. So you'll have to kind of like remind me of like I said this, I said that, I said this, I said that. Although I will remember, but yeah, definitely like remind me about like the T-square and kind of how it all like leads to like the Pisces, like the Aries energy and the Pisces. But let me explain. So two things. Well, first of all, before I get into the T-square, I was going to say something about Neptune rules video cameras. It rules mirrors, screens. So one of the best ways, and I tell this to all my like Pisces, Neptunian people, is to it's to film. Like one really great idea. I know it sounds fucking weird. Is to film yourself. Like do like you don't have to show a single soul, but like imagine you're just filming yourself. Like hey, like today, like blah blah, and basically like you get more in contact with yourself through through that, right? So it could be like doing affirmations in the mirror. It can be I'll switch back to my face for a little bit. Yeah. So it can be like doing affirmations in the mirror. It can be filming yourself doing like a little like a vlog where you're able to see yourself in film, and also it's really going to help your communication in that Mercury energy, right? So that's really important, is the fact that like you can like literally gain so much. Like I'm a Pisces and I make videos, as you know. And that helps me a lot. Like I'll literally sometimes like there was a period where I was just like, which ironically it's like I usually only do that when my girlfriend's gone, but like I was like filming myself like every single day. I was doing a vlog, but I was only posting ones that I thought were like relevant to like my followers, right? Because like I just like was saying whatever came to my mind. And sometimes like I'm not trying to like like tell all my followers about my relationship or about like different things that are very 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 personal. I'm an open book, but like sometimes it's like it's just not meant for the internet. So that's one thing that's very very healing. So keep that in mind. We can talk about that. And there's other versions of that as well, and you can be creative with like that, but also just like finding like a creative outlet through the arts, whatever it is, like very important for you to be like really embedded in creativity. Now, the fact that the T-square shoots out like very close to your North Node, your Jupiter, is basically saying that your career is and your career, which is linked to your midheaven, and Pisces, which is all about like helping people and like being very empathetic and serving humanity through your career. Like kind of like yeah, like really really like having a career that is based on like it's in the ninth house of midheaven, so that in my system of whole signs, so that's like speaking to like really wanting to find like that higher truth and philosophy through your my cats are fighting. I need to make sure it's not Mika. She'll start throwing a fit. FedEx, Mika? Or is that Esme? I know it's Mika. Yeah, Mika. Okay, you can hear them fight. I think these headphones cut out all outside noise. I'll just show you really quick because they pretend like they're not friends, but they're like actually friends. Hey, you guys are on camera. Hey, 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 hey. Mika, stop fighting with FedEx. I know you guys are actually friends, so I caught you guys the other day hanging out together when you thought I wasn't watching you. Me, FedEx. Yeah, this is how things go down in this household. And there's the baby, the winner of my contest. Esme, show your face. You're famous now. Esme. Oh, she said, eh. That means hi in her language. little cat break. What happened to your chart? Okay, yeah. So basically, like, it's all about channeling that energy into a very empathetic career path, a career path where you feel like you're really helping people, on like an energetic, emotional, whatever it is, whether it's like being a nurse, whether it's being a psychologist, whether it's being an astrologer, whether it's being someone that does like something that's more based on charity, whatever it is. And it can be anything, even in the business world, there's opportunities for helping. But ultimately, I think, you feel most, because like the thing is, like with the North Node in Aries in the 10th house, that's very like entrepreneurial energy. That's very much like cats. That's very, so it could be like a mix of the both, like a spiritual entrepreneur like me, or just someone who implements like helping people into their life, right? So that's kind of how a lot of this is resolved, is finding a life where you're able to kind of like be your, I want to say be your own boss, in the sense, because you have all this first house energy, where you're like able to like learn like the self-discipline, the assertiveness, the independence, and all the things that are needed, when you're kind of taking control of your own life. Now, I haven't even started about relationships, but yeah, basically that's huge. And there's one other point I wanted to make. Let me try to remember. Also, you have Jupiter in the 10th house, so that's really, really good for like having lots of luck, and expansion, when it has to do with your career. So that's like a really, really good energy for someone who's going to be very successful. And when they're headed in their like real like North Node direction, right? Because you have North Node in the same house as your Jupiter. Like when you're headed in that direction I've been talking about, of the Aries North Node, like really like taking life into your own hands. I'm gonna do this, and I'm not gonna like allow my past life tendency of indecisiveness to hold me back. I'm gonna go for it because it relates to me and my heart, which also goes back to Cancer, because Cancer is about getting in touch with your emotions. So that's like why you have so much Cancer, because in this life you're really trying to get in touch with your deeper, like most authentic self, so that you can move towards like a life path that's more based, where you're taking all these past life skills that you've accumulated, and kind of adding them to the world and contributing to humanity. Now, I definitely see in your chart, like also with the nodes squaring Neptune, like how there's some level of past life conditioning that has kind of held you back. Like, so there's a big need for you to like reevaluate belief systems, spiritual belief systems in this lifetime. I'll search back and show you what I'm talking about, because I know most of my clients are visual learners. So, okay, you see how the South Node is squaring, exact square with Neptune. I have a book that I love kind of looking at sometimes. I think it's 145, if I remember correctly. Yep. So I'll just kind of skim through it, what their breakdown of this is. So when this happens, the unresolved karmic material is about subtle issues of one's sense of ultimate meaning, one's dreams and ideals. The skipped karmic step can revolve around the loss of meaning, profound disillusionment, or despair that leads to loss of life force and will. In some cases, the negative ramifications are so extreme as to lead to catatonic disassociation. It can also represent unresolved dream or ideal that the person has suppressed or has been unable to fulfill, and now you have to explore it. And then analysis of the evolutionary axis, so the node of the moon. So yeah, it speaks to kind of like how you've held back your dreams in past lives, right? You've held back your dreams of self-actualization, of individualization in past lives, because you've been tied down too much, whether it's relationships or whatever it is. So explorations of such themes can involve distinguishing whether or not such dreams need to be physically realized or can exist solely as a fantasy fulfilled in the imagination. Involves a struggle to clarify the difference between personal fantasy and objective reality. It can lead to a spiritual crisis, but also a spiritual transformation. Just as easily as this can speak to someone who's lost their spiritual way, who now wanders meaninglessly in cycles of despair, and perhaps is compensating for the loss of drug addiction or other similarly abnegating behaviors. In rare cases, this skip step can indicate someone who has been exposed to a psychic attack of some kind, someone who has been possessed by unconscious or astral forces because of the possibility for distortion via fantasy and delusion reflected by displacement. This can be an especially problematic case to work with. So it's very difficult, but the key is really like the thing with filming yourself and getting more in touch with those sides, that spiritual side of yourself. Now, with that said, so I talked about that. So yeah, like the way that you are, like your Cancer part, like there's this real like kind of like, yeah, I would study on Google. I would search like the Cancer Libra square, the square between Cancer and Libra, just generally, and read about that. And there's like tons of articles you can find, and just like see in the follow-up, that's my homework for you, see like what you come up with and like what resonates. But overall, having moon square Mercury can really make it difficult to kind of like communicate your emotions. And there can be lots of shyness and miscommunications and just difficulty of like really getting what's within out there. So yeah, really like finding like a career that can really use your Cancer like empathy energy is very, very important. But you're also learning a lot through your career. But there's also a level of entrepreneurship and pioneering that is very, very necessary, where you're controlling your own destiny. You're not relying on other people. So love. So Juno is in Pisces. I like to think of Juno as like your kind of like your dream. Your dream, right? Like your dream lover, like the perfect lover. Also, you have one of the best aspects in astrology, Venus sextile Jupiter. So Jupiter here, Venus here. So that's really, really good for popularity. We actually have a trine of Venus in Jupiter, like in like the actual like real life. I think it's happening like tomorrow, the next day. So you're probably feeling that right now. It's very positive, very lucky. So it just makes you like lucky in those two areas of life, which is like higher spirituality, healing, and also like success and life purpose. Yeah, it's like a very like I would say that like that connection is like the keyword would be like luck and money, luck and love. Like it definitely adds a lot of that. So that's really, really good. It can make very harmonious relationships where love is easily expressed, and lots of luck with money, as I said. So segueing, I'm just kind of trying to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Okay, so you can be a very powerful communicator. You can be someone who really assert themselves really strongly. So like Cancer, like people don't really know this, but like if you look up like the richest people in the world, like tons of like these billionaires and stuff, a lot of them have Cancer suns. So yours being in the first house, there's definitely this drive to kind of like be independent and really, really push yourself towards a life of like you controlling your own destiny, which, as I've said many, many times, is so important for you. So now Venus in the 12th house, that's difficult. Now it is at 28 degrees, so it's a very strong degree. But it's still in the 12th house, and it is opposite Uranus. So that is interesting. So Venus in the 12th house, a lot of times they can sometimes be their worst enemy in love, if that makes sense. Like they can self-sabotage a lot. And the fact that it's conjunct Chiron means that like probably earlier in life you probably had like lots of issues with self-esteem. But you get past that as you lean it, like it's very good for like leaning into your own healing, and in the end it makes you like really, really a powerful healer who has like a very harmonious effect on other people's energies. Like things like Reiki, energetic healing can be very, very powerful for you. But also since it's in Gemini, it relates to like maybe you had to go through this long journey to find your authentic voice, so then you can do something in some way where you're helping other people find theirs. So okay, so yeah, Venus in Gemini, that's like the ultimate like curious energy. People who have Venus in Gemini, they will literally date someone just because they're like curious about the person. Like there's a tendency to kind of flip from like people in Venus and Gemini to go from relationship to relationship. With a Libra moon, as I said before, there's an emotional need for relationships. So you have to really watch out for being overly relationship dependent. Now, that doesn't mean don't be in relationships, but this is what's really important, key point. The fact that Venus is opposite Uranus is basically saying that you're going to need a type of relationship. Well, one where Venus and Gemini, there's a ton of like, there's a big emotional connection, right? Like, or excuse me, not emotional. I meant to say, well, that too with your Cancer energy, but with your Mars and Cancer too. But really like, you know, like an emotional connection, intellectual connection, like where you feel like you can like talk to your partner about anything, like nothing's off limits, right? There has to be like an intellectual rapport before anything can happen. And a lot of times there's like more of like a lighthearted energy towards love. So yeah, it's very interesting, and it makes you like a lover of like of anything. Like you could probably love writing, you'd be a very powerful writer. I've already said that. Like with Mercury's trine Pluto, you can be someone who can really be a powerful writer and researcher. But yeah, it can sometimes create like a level of like coolness when it comes to relationships. Like grass is green on the other side type energy. And it's really good for like, you know, having lots of friends and stuff like that. But yeah, it can make someone very flirtatious and also with money. It can make someone like especially in the 12th house, kind of careless with money. Like it's in your pocket and then it's gone. So you have to watch out for that. You have to really like learn like, and maybe you have, and you know, Cancer is a more conservative sign, but still, you know, you have to watch out for that because Venus rules spending. But yeah, Venus and Gemini, like they're just very curious, and they tend to like, you know, date lots of different people throughout their lives. Not to say that like if there's any sign, and also like if there's any sign that would be like bisexual or homosexual or just curious, you know, like they may not even be that, but they may just like want to experiment, just see what it's like, you know. But they're like, yeah, very curious, and they really want to learn a lot from their relationships. So then the fact that it's opposite Uranus is like, if your relationship doesn't have this like level of freedom that you need, you might feel like you're like in cage, like imprisoned in your own relationship. So it's really important to have relationships, of course, with the moon, like that are based on balance, harmoniousness, equalness. You're not going to be someone that likes you like soft relationships, like in the sense of like you like peace at home. You really, there's an emotional need as a Libra moon to have peace. Like any kind of like really fucking crazy energy, you're not going to fucking like, you know. But also, you know, you're gonna want someone who's driven, you know, someone who's also driven, but who gives you the space to really like find yourself, because that's a huge part of your life, right? So the Uranus opposite Venus, it kind of creates like an energy where you can be quite eccentric in the type of people you like. Like you might be someone who is you're very attracted to the minds of people, and I have Venus in Aquarius, so it's kind of a similar energy where it's like very unconventional in terms of like what you're interested in, whether it's your artistic passions or your passions of love. But the key is getting past that Chiron conjunction there, which can kind of like, you know, hold back your belief that you're worthy of love and stuff like that. So that's very important. So yeah, I was talking about Juno, and then I just like stopped talking about it. Juno, yeah, it's like your ideal partner, and you know, having it in the 9th house in Pisces means that you would probably really like someone that's very spiritual, that's very empathetic, and that works perfectly with your Cancer energy. You know, like maybe a Pisces would be good for you. Cancer and Pisces is a very good combination. They're both water signs, so someone who definitely understands that kind of like watery depth to you, but also someone who's really like looking to you know, to learn a lot about the world, about different cultures. Maybe it's someone from a different culture, who knows. And someone who's just, you know, curious about the world, who, like I said, the intellectual connection is very strong. Now, Neptune on the descendant, I spoke briefly about it. That is, you really have to watch out for, like, I call it the rose-colored glasses in love. where, you know, you really have to take your time in relationships, because things might not always be as they seem. There can be like that rose, what they call pink cloud period in relationships. So you have to watch out for like being kind of hasty with your relationships, with your choices. Like, I'm gonna move in with this person right away, which I don't see that energy in your chart that much, because you don't have like that much fire, or like that many like these really impulsive energies. But it is a possibility. So you have to kind of understand that, and move intelligently in respect to that. But yeah, you'll be very unconventional in relationships. And yeah, like, it's really important to choose, like, it sounds obvious, but to choose the right person, not based on how they look, not based on these external factors, but based on how much freedom they give you to really like dive into yourself. Now, with Venus, as I was saying before, or Neptune, excuse me. Yeah, watching out for disillusionment in relationships. Really like getting second opinions from friends or a therapist or whoever. If you ever need a therapist, I'm a therapist. I do astrological therapy, very, very affordable packages that I offer. It's very deep. It takes everything we're talking about today, it takes it to the next level of depth. And I have like, yeah, I love doing that, and that's why I charge low prices for that, because I just absolutely love it. And I get supervision weekly from my actual therapist, with my cases I have, and I just, this is like one of the best therapists in the whole Colorado area that I have, that I speak to weekly. So I'm really like, when I do astrological counseling, like, it's really fucking good, because it's like it's taking this, like, for example, we'll study like one aspect of your chart, like like the love stuff, and we'll go deeper and deeper into it. We'll compare it to your lived experience, which we're gonna do anyways in the follow up. But yeah, it's very, like, very powerful. It's like, I don't think I've had a single. I know for a fact that I haven't had a single counseling client who hasn't been extremely satisfied with it, and it's so much faster and more effective than like traditional psychology, which you can just be going for years, and like, not a lot of times. I mean, there's great therapists, but like, it's not as deep as what I do. Not to say that I'm like a better therapist than a great therapist, but I have the secret weapon of astrology, and of a deeper understanding of you and the map of your whole self. And then comparing that with your lived experience, it just gets really deep. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, watching out for the disillusionment. Very important. So Mars in Cancer, I don't really talk that much about that. Basically, it gives a really great strength of will. But it's not really like something that's shown that much. It is in the first house though. But like, you have to watch out for like passive aggression when you have Mars in Cancer, especially with your Black and Lilith there too. You have to watch out for being passive aggressive, like, because you like if you feel like powerless in certain situations, you might, like, especially with all the Mercury stuff I talked about, like kind of holding anger in, emotional anger, and not letting it out, and using your like advanced like emotional intelligence to kind of manipulate people. You have to watch out for that. So love making becomes like a very intuitive thing. It makes you very, very passionate lover, very close lover. So that adds like another split where like there's that freedom part, but then there's also that part of you that really wants that deep Cancerian closeness, where you guys are like so tied together, so emotionally close. You know everything about each other, this, that, and the fourth. Which, yeah. So yeah, there's definitely like a need to have like an outlet for any pent up energies. And yeah, it makes them like really like kind of there. It's also very good for like, I'll put my face back in, for just like overall drive, because it's in the first house. So Mars in the first house is really good for that. And of course, sun rising is amazing for that, it's a very strong position. Self-expression is super important to you. Freedom, as I said before. And yeah, there's a need for you to be a little bit selfish in this lifetime. And it might be really difficult, but there's a need for you to be a little bit selfish, and to be assertive, to be independent, and to leave things that aren't working, and to kind of like leave things, people, environments, all that behind, that are no longer serving you. It's not just stay with them just because like that's where you were, because you're going through lots of growth. So yeah, let's see here. So talk about that. yeah, creativity is an area where you can experience like lots of growth, and there's lots of like creative potential. Overall, like, you know, Uranus and Saturn in the 6th house. Saturn in the 6th house, I have that too. I have Uranus in the 6th house too. You have to watch out for, you know, for overworking. It's going to make you a very strong worker. There's a need for like a structured daily work. Sometimes people who have this, they have like health issues early in life, whether it's physical or mental health. So it's really, really important to have like a daily health program. And it gives you very strong organizational abilities. It's one of the better Saturn placements you can have, honestly. I mean, yeah, like you have to watch out for like being too much of a workaholic at times. But overall, like, you know, having Saturn in like the 10th house is the best. I'd say sixth house, you know, is also great, or good, because it's the house of Virgo, which is an Earth planet. Uranus in the 6th is basically a great metaphor is me right now. It's 3:35 a.m. This is my first reading of the night. It gives unusual kind of day-to-day habits. It also kind of makes it so like it speaks for that energy of like not wanting to be held back by like a boss or something like that, like kind of an unconventional daily routine. Your approach like to daily life might be like quite unusual. And also, like, you know, you might be someone like the successful by Jupiter, you know, who can benefit a lot through pets. And you know, Uranus there, it could be like very unusual pets, like snakes or something like that. But like overall, like someone who can like, I'm cats, I think, are the best animal in the world. It's my opinion. I love dogs too, but like, yeah, pets can really help you expand yourself and really bring lots of healing to you. I didn't really talk about that very much in Virgo. So yeah, like your home environment would have been one, you know, like with lots of like communication, lots of learning. So you really, it kind of speaks to like the relationship stuff, like really like liking to learn. Like the family culture is probably a very like intellectual based. And yeah, so then of course Chiron, like I mentioned it before that, like yeah, Jupiter, part of fortune and Jupiter both, you know, part of fortune in Aries is basically like, you know, you will be someone who finds a lot of joy through everything I mentioned about the North Node, like through you know, being your own boss, um, you know, like kind of flowing with that what's the word? Like self-induced, self-propelled energy. Um, so when you're like using your own willpower to achieve your goals, you're gonna really feel at ease and feel like lots of joy. And in the 10th house, part of fortune, it just speaks to like the North Node, like you experience lots of joy, kind of that it's kind of like your flow state, right? When you are like kind of overcoming like childhood inhibitions, and achieving like your worldly goals and really striving for maturity and independence. And then with Jupiter and Aries, I talk about Jupiter in the 10th house, but you know, Jupiter in Aries, it's like you're the kind of person who really like is very freedom loving, as I said before, very spontaneous. It's very good for leadership. And you know, someone who like a very like direct seeker of truth. Chiron in the 12th, conjunct Venus, as I said before, you know, you're someone who there a lot of times Chiron in the 12th house, there's like these like spiritual wounds, these very deeply buried spiritual wounds that requires this deep spiritual introspection to kind of go into. And that whole exploration can be like a catalyst of helping heal other people from there. So it's like very common for like a spiritual healer to have like, you know, Venus and Chiron together, like the 12th house, like that. I already talked about Chiron and Gemini, like not trusting your own thought processes or fearing communicating with others. Sometimes people have like a communication issue, like when they're a kid, like a tick or like a stud or something like that. So yeah. But yeah, overall, let's see what else the stars are showing. Um, no, show me, show me, show me. Okay, basic. No, not Jesse 2. Basics. It's not really basics. I call this file of stars basics, but then I just kept adding stars to it. I'll show you. So it's not really looking that basic anymore. So let's see if you have anything. Yeah, Vulcanus on your sun. That's gonna add like kind of more of a kind of like Vulcanus volcano. So it's like someone who can really move towards their higher self in a strong way. Who'll have like it'll be very good for assertiveness. Now it's 13. So okay. So yeah, lots of luck with money. Okay. So your vertex in the 9th house could speak to like 1 second. It can speak to kind of in times of need coming across well, the anti-vertex would be in Taurus, so like people who are like very stable and who have that kind of like that energy that can really ground you. But I'm trying to find something on my phone. 1 second. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. So yeah, another thing about Chiron 12th house is that like it's all about like finding inner peace and seeing yourself clearly, right? Like kind of how I talked about before. And then you're able to like naturally help other people find peace within themselves, right? Because you know about that struggle of finding that. So healing becomes like very, very intuitive. Self-examination is very natural to you. So yeah. There's something else I was looking for. Yeah, so like Pluto in the 5th house, it's like very like you can get off on like intensity and adventure. There can be like unusual talents and hobbies. Like I said, like children might be like very unique and very different than you are. And you can gain lots of transformation through your children. But really it's like about like creativity and self-expression is like the real source of your transformation. So it's all about like putting yourself out there and being and learning to be like allowing yourself to be admired by others, for your unique talents. And okay, where the fuck is this? Mhm. That's too far. It's not what's it called. Macrobia. Mm-hmm. And is it Bella Beetlejuice? Beetlejuice? Yeah. So another one. Another like you have like a lots of really, really good money energy. Really, really good. Um Now, where are you? I have these notes on my phone. Usually I keep them on my computer, but I start writing some on my phone. And there's one that's very applicable, but I cannot find it. Bear with me. Oh, I found it. There it is. About the vertex. So yeah, having the vertex in the 5th house is basically like about being able to, like, there can be like short but like really meaningful like romantic encounters, and it also speaks to like how children can play like an important role in your life. I've already talked about this a little bit, but there's also like a need for universal acceptance that can come with this sometimes, and like it kind of speaks to like that Gemini Venus, where there can be this like tendency to kind of like fall in and out of love like easily. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to add. And you know, in Scorpio, it's just speaking to like how you can really find a lot of your like doorway to higher awareness through like really intense death, rebirth, transformation experiences, which is obviously like a big part of your chart. I mean, you don't have any Scorpio or 8th house or big Pluto stuff, but still, like, it's, you know, it's your spiritual person, a spiritual journey. So one other thing about Black Moon Lilith, one second. So that's like a really like sex symbol energy also. Like this is, I'm just like finding like a different, there's different takes of Black Moon Lilith, right? So it gives one like a lot of power that you can draw from yourself. Like where you're really able to like awaken, activate, even liberate the people that you meet just by being yourself. Um, so that's very, very powerful for healing. And it's very like kind of like good for like projecting like that divine feminine energy. So yeah. Besides that, let's see. I think that yeah. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna kind of go through this because I don't really see any other. Let's just go to Jesse. I just named my files like that. Let's go to Jesse and see if there's any other midheaven. Nope. Oh, what's this? Karma. So you have karma rising. So some of these asteroids they speak for themselves, right? Now let's see how close is it. It's very close. So when you have karma rising, I mean, I could probably ask you this question, like, what do you think it means to have karma on your ascendant? And you'd probably get it right. Basically, that, you know, karma is playing a very huge role in terms of like the way you project yourself. Like, there's even this level of like potentially like being similar, like physically, like in this lifetime to how you were before in like previous lifetimes. So that's it's powerful, and it basically just means that like karma is ruling ruling your life in a lot of ways, essentially, if you want to put it like that, right? And that you'll there'll be a lot of obviously free will, but then also there'll be, you know, lots of fated encounters, stuff of that nature. So yeah, like I just think overall that's is that yeah, so Vesta on your Chiron would be speaking further to like being a service through healing. So yeah. So yeah, that's it. Let me go back to my face. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I felt like it was a very nice, smooth reading. Of course, I go over my hours. I always freaking do. I wish I could keep them to an hour, but this is how it is. I had a great time doing this. I look forward to our follow-up. I'm like pretty damn sure. Let me just check that you got a follow-up. I think you did. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Yeah, you did. Okay. So, MC, my friend MC, make sure that you remind me about like you'll probably watch this several times, very deep, like lots of stuff going on. My suggestion is to like maybe I'll tell you this over text, like the first time you watch it, just kind of watch it, and then after that, take notes. I mean, obviously, like take notes the first time on things like that are really important. And you have your own process, whatever. But like the point is, like most people watch this like several times before the follow-up. Now, you can let me know over text because I'm going to obviously send you a link to this if you want to do just the follow-up or if you want to do the follow-up and the current astrology. I already explained that at the start, so I don't have to repeat myself. It's a great combination. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon, my friends. Okay, bye, and thank you for supporting me. Ciao, 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 ciao. Ciao from my boy who's following the Samsung logo on the TV. FedEx, what are you doing? FedEx, FedEx, Esmond, Esmond, FedEx, FedEx. Don't attack my TV and make it fall on you and Esmond. That'd be very bad. She's a very small cat, and we have to protect Esmond at all costs. All right, thank you so much.